Okay, perfect. Okay, just one person online. So we can get this. Do you think we can get started? Everyone here? Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for this slightly belated International Women's Day session. Really pleased to be joined by Kate Bright. Kate's the CEO and founder of Umbra International. She's had an incredible career so far, so we're going to hear about her time as a bodyguard, security professional, and as a business owner. She's also the trustee of 2 charities and advocate for accessible security, and particularly championing women's safety. So, hi Kate, thank you for joining us.
Hi, can you all hear me okay? Excellent.
Perfect. So we've got so much we can talk about, but perhaps we can start with how you kind of got started and how did you become trained as a bodyguard?
Yes, so I realised that for some people this might be a bit of a new concept. How many people have met anyone that works in close protection before, just so I don't insult anyone's intelligence? Oh, great. Okay, a little smattering at the back as well. Interesting. Okay, I can see you. So I normally kind of when I'm talking about the world of bodyguarding, I sort of start that whole career sort of preface with the fact that everything I've ever done is an accident and everything I've ever done is through failure. So I'm sat here today as somebody that got rejected from the university that I wanted to go to because I had an operation just before my A-levels and getting 2 A's and a D instead of 3 B's. Leeds were like, no, sorry, don't want you. So ended up going to Royal Holloway, which was amazing, also known as Royal Holiday, and had the best time ever. And then came out of university, that was 2001. So we'd already survived the fact that airplanes were not going to fall out of the sky on the Millennium Eve. So that was awesome. And then the .com thing busted and all the rest of it. And that's my excuse for then not getting any graduate training schemes that I wanted. So rejection was kind of following me around at this stage. And this is, so I'm 45, so this was in 2001. So I got a rucksack on, an A to Z, because there were no phones in those days. And because the actual page of Soho Square, where all the recruitment agencies were at that point, was well used by the rest of my family, it wasn't even in there. I didn't even know where to go when I got to Victoria Station from West Sussex, where I was living, and physically gave copies of my CV to recruitment agents. So I'm that old. I remember the life before everything was so easy. Well, not easy actually, but I'll come on to that. Anyway, so I think one of the recruiters took pity on me, and I blagged my way into working as a personal assistant. And any personal assistants here? Any fellow PAs, EAs, people that, no, okay, good. I'm always the only person in any room normally, so that's even more of a niche. So I basically said that I was really organised and sat with this recruiter, and they said, look, you know, you are a massive outlier, you have no experience, but there's a company being bought by Disney at the moment, and they need basically a sort of a multifaceted sort of multitasker person. Day one, I walked in there and there was Michael Eisner. So for anyone that knows a bit about Disney, there was a sort of a cohort of people coming in to buy the business. I didn't know about buying businesses. I didn't know about Michael Eisner. I just knew he was somebody I had to serve a cup of tea to, and how wrong could that go? Long story short, that was the first day of my career working with a high profile, high net worth, whatever you want to call them, people of interest. I was, I think, assistant 9. So think about Devil Wears Prada, kind of that vibe, sort of get the first edition thing from The Impossible Place. And I went to work for a series of what is now called family offices. So again, how many people know what a family office is? Good, no one, brilliant. So basically it's a structure that's used to manage the investments in the day-to-day life of the sort of private clients. I call them private clients just to sort of make it easier. And I was merrily on my way into my career. I was very good at solving problems, and I think this is the key thing that sort of has followed me around, along with rejection and failure and all the rest of it, is that I'm really quite good in a crisis. High-profile people and people of wealth and note, there are sometimes things that you have to solve quick time. Love it. Was born for it. I'm Irish, Bavarian, Danish, English, so there's like a real melange there of sort of, I love that kind of firefighting situations. Long story short, I then ended up working for a family who had a security team. By this point, I was like, this is amazing. Why would you need a physical security team? And I was about 6 or 7 years into my career at this stage. And it was thanks to what I call a man ambassador. So it was my head of security. And by this point, by the way, I was the chief punch bag. So I was like the chief problem solver. And I was managing all these different people, so chief of staff essentially. And one of my functions I had to manage or try and manage was a team of 9 ex-SBS security. And I say try and manage because with love, they're all my friends and colleagues to this very day. It was a bit like herding cats, but it was really fun herding cats. And so one of the head of security, Andy, who I owe my whole career to, and as I say, man ambassador. I really like that term because I owe him my career. So that in a framework of International Women's Day, I think it's really important that I sort of really highlight that. He said, Brighty, you are very organised. You're a pain in the what's it. You're great in a crisis. I think you should seriously look into a career in security. And again, people that have a knowledge of what a PA is and does, you don't get training, like you don't really get noticed actually. And so I was just like, problem solving Irish, Bavarian, Danish, English person being asked to go and do my security training. So I was like, yes, please. So genuinely, that was the sort of accidental way that I got to go off and do my training, and then ultimately start working in what I call, so close protection, as the two sort of shady people in the back know, is the word for bodyguard. So I'll probably interchange the two, but that started my career, which was and is it's an amazing world that's misunderstood, it's misgendered. I was supremely useful from day one. Actually, day one of the course, I was literally front row, kind of putting my hand up, new pencil case. This was a big moment for a PA that hadn't been given any training. You know, you guys probably have access to some L&D and all the rest of it. For me, it was like, if you survived, that was a really good day. So this course was everything to me. And then the ultimate sort of learning that I took from the course was that you never stop learning. And anyone that thinks that they can get a close protection badge and just kind of waltz into this world, it was networking, pre-WhatsApp, so not WhatsApp groups. I don't know what we did before WhatsApp groups, but something. There wasn't LinkedIn, there wasn't anything that you could sort of connect with people. So I sort of set about on this mission to, firstly anyway, connect with other women in the sector, because there were just so few, but yet I seemed to kind of just be told, here, look, go and talk to Lydia. She's like, oh, here's Emma's number. And I was like, took these little scraps of information. And so I set about this idea of bringing together women in the industry. That was the start.
Amazing.
Of my career.
And for this, it seems like a few of us don't know much about what bodyguarding actually involves. Can you talk through your training and your kind of experience learning how to do close protection?
Yeah, so the close protection course itself is so it's a bit like anyone who learned to sail in this room, sort of miles, nautical miles. You have to get under your belt, so you show you're sort of able to kind of do the work. Similar sort of thing. So there's a kind of mandatory period of training that you do, which involves a lot of planning. So a lot of classroom-based plan. The thing about security and certainly planning logistics for these sort of private clients is that if you don't have a plan A, B, C, D, E, and F, you're going to need G, H, I, J, K, because things always change and things always go wrong. So I didn't realize how much of it was so much like the PA job that I'd done. So I was really, really annoyingly like Excel-y, document-y good at that bit. And then you layer over that the practical application. So taking my principal, you're my new boss, and as part of the cohort, and we would go around the streets of London pretending to be on operations and have, in those days, radios. Now WhatsApp is used quite a lot, but we were trained on radios in the sort of old school way, so that we were able to sort of speak between the teams and understanding how advanced party, so going in advance of a project, so you could go and make sure that there were no risks and threats, and then taking you as the principal to the venue, and then also having people that would come behind that, the sort of the structure of protection, which I was like this security geek during the course, because a lot of then the laws of the land, the citizens arrest, the use of force, you have this perception, certainly I did, that the guys, because they're from a military background, protection role is that of like, punching people and, generally getting, making a nuisance of yourself. And I grew up with brothers, so I think I was quite excited that this was going to be something, quite physical, because I was, raised fighting basically. But actually that was completely opposite to the soft skills, the EQ or emotional quotient, that I suddenly realized that protecting people physically is more about situational awareness and understanding why that person in the back knows about close protection. That's going to really bother me, actually. Noticing details, being able to, and weirdly, invisible security, I'll come on to it. I'm obviously clearly not invisible. I am a giant blonde human. So I'm totally inappropriate for certain types of tasks where it requires that sort of different kind of invisibility, but I'm totally hiding in plain sight when I go with my head of security as an advance party where you're checking into the hotel to go and make sure that everything's okay, as long as I'm not dressed, in my dark glasses and the stereotypical kind of, curly whirly. And so the training for me was a massive eye-opener. I had a newfound respect for the people that I'd worked with. A lot of it, as I say, at that time also was about how to not use force, how to de-escalate situations. And some of the things that I chose to do as part of my continuous professional development, such as Israeli martial arts, I did it because it's fun. And actually, I would say that fitness is the best way to stay safe, let alone learning how to, sort of disarm a knife and a gun. I mean, it's kind of fun, and evasive driving and 180s in cars. You don't really need that in Mayfair, but hey, I'm here for it, kind of thing. So some of the training aspects of it, if you distilled it down, were actually pretty much things that I can distill security down to really good planning, really good people skills, really good communication. I'm from a variety of different European flavors, so I speak the odd language or two, and you play to those skills. And I really enjoyed it, and it was something that I then went back to a lot of my PA community and a lot of my fellow gatekeepers and heads of private office and family office then started to also want to try and do the training as well.
Amazing. That's so interesting. And so from bodyguard trained to now being CEO of Umbra, can you talk through that journey a bit and kind of how you kind of went from one to now being a business owner? And also for those of us who don't know as much about what Umbra does, maybe talk through the business a bit.
So I said, this idea of getting my close protection training and also creating a bit of a network of other women in the sector, that was my first sort of strategic priority. I love community. I, by this point, set up a network of gatekeepers that work with these sort of clients, and about a third of our business now comes through those kind of people. But I was very much focused on bringing women together. And in my head, it was, I look back at some of my notebooks now from 2013, it's like setting up business to provide female security for female clients. And I sort of sat there and, waiting for the phone to ring, and like, actually, I'm going to have to diversify from just that sort of niche upon niche. But actually, the phone did start ringing. And I should say, I took my training back into the job that I've been in, because I thought it'd be a bit rude to train on their time and then be like, thank you, that's really great, you've given me a whole nother career path. But luckily, the family that I worked for, and they're still clients now, they allowed me to take some time off. And when there were certain people coming into town, there was a Hollywood A-lister that I worked for. And whenever she came to town, there was a project that I would always do to help to support her. And actually, the phone started ringing. It genuinely did. And so I started getting really excited, because this network of women that I created, I was like, Lydia, can you, I can't be there because I've obviously got a job, but can you go and take this job for me? So actually, the golden thread of what I really wanted to achieve all those years ago started to become a reality. And then when you're a useful person that's good in a crisis, and that you start to grow a network of people that can protect, and that kind of client base then starts to rely on you, you get asked to do a lot more things. And so the sort of, I always sit here and remember accidental failure. That's everything that sort of travels with me. This business set itself up. I didn't sit there in 2013 thinking, I'm going to do a close protection license. I'm going to gain the trust of a lot of private clients, and then I'm going to end up setting up what is now Umbra, which provides that sort of protective infrastructure for 200 families globally. It was very organic. It's been very much, I am a founder CEO, close protection trained, chartered security professional. Like it's like super weird niche, like load of things all mushed together. So most rooms I go in, I have to explain that as a business now of 16 in our sort of core team, we provide a lot of the recruitment. So not just security recruitment, but also private office and family office recruitment. Because you think the vetting and the checking, again, when I was working as a gatekeeper, that was always the thing that we'd come unstuck by. We'd have all these fancy ways that we could protect ourselves with it wasn't biometric, wasn't invented then, but you get the idea. And then suddenly, you don't know who Bob and John and Emma are, and you've got some insider threat, and you've got to start from square one again. So the business of Umbra now basically delivers all the services that I was frustrated at not having in one place when I was that lowly PA. Well, underestimate, as I say, the PA at your peril, because as I say now, a third of our business comes through them. So glad I set up that network. But I can't remember the question. This was that setting up Umbra.
That's kind of covered it. Yeah.
So very random. That's the thing, and I think because I talk in a lot of schools as well about sort of entrepreneurism, and I know we're going to come on to that word, but I think for me, I definitely saw that it was a career pivot. So I've gone through a career transition of sorts, and a lot of the men and women that we work with, certainly from a military background, I can relate to that sense of coming out of something and redeploying your skills in another way. And this idea of also taking opportunities. The business that I ran in 2019, funnily enough, is slightly different to the one I run now. And the plan we had on March the 13th, I'll never forget. Big plans, 2020. And then, we all know what happened then. But actually, invisible security, digital security, reputational security, that whole idea that as a business now, we can protect our clients holistically and not just be thinking about hiring you a bodyguard and that's it. Actually, I want to know that you've hired all of the 50 people in your private office really well. I want to know and test your digital systems. We want to make sure that you've got the ability to talk about how great a philanthropist you are. And I'll come on to wealth and great wealth done well, because that's a real sort of passion area of mine. And then we'll talk about how safe you feel, because I don't know about you guys, but paranoia and peace of mind, you can go between those on a daily basis. So feeling safe, wealth, exposure, high profile, low profile, there's a whole lot of psychology going on when you talk about feeling safe. And I think one of the reasons that we've been able to grow and survive and grow through a pandemic is that if you cannot grow a business in private security during a mass extinction level event of perception, then really, what are you doing? So slightly proud of what we've done, but there was a huge boom in our sector, and Umbra lives to see the day through a few scary moments, particularly March the 13th, which was a Friday, March the 13th, wasn't it? Just to add a little twist on.
Yeah, I think we all thought we were going to be gone for one weekend, didn't we? And then,
I was more of the am I going to die variety? But I was like, get back in the office.
That's what I'd actually just started
mindset, I suppose.
Yeah. About that paranoia. Okay, perfect. So I think I heard in your TED talk that only about, I think it was 5 or 6% of the people that have done your particular training are women.
Yes.
So what kind of response do you usually get from your clients when they meet you for the first time? Are they ever surprised when they meet you, or what?
Yes. So I did a TED talk. So just for reference, obviously not many people in my sector are visible, and also not visible talking about invisible security, but I quite liked the sort of, Umbra, for those sort of wordsmiths out there, is the Latin for shadow, shade, protection. And Kate Bright is sort of like the opposite. So there was always something there in me playing with that idea of light and shade and all the rest of it. But I did a TED talk, and again, this failure and sort of opportunistic sort of thing that follows me. I had 3 weeks notice, someone dropped out basically, and I got a phone call. So I'm not going to sort of dress it up, but I was able to, in 3 weeks, cobble together a TED talk. And in 2018, there were 4.25% of the 16,000 license holders in the UK were female. And I've just got the latest FOI request back, and it's 6.88%. So I'm taking 2.5% as a win. It's still rubbish when you compare it to demand, like commercial. I am commercially minded, and actually, if we had more access to really good quality, diverse operators, take gender out of it, it would be a really good thing. So I guess, and then layered on that, there are only 300 chartered security professionals in the world, of which you can imagine, yes, there's 30 women, of which I'm one. So there's this sort of like niche upon niche upon niche. But I've always said that in life, sometimes difference is a really, really good thing, because you think differently, you act differently, you're asking different kinds of questions. And I think when you, a bit like kind of sailing nautical miles, when you've had, and I could say 26 years of delivering service to the clients that I've worked with. No, I don't have a military background. No, I don't have a law enforcement background. I'm not ex-government agency, but I've worked with, and I can pull on those amazing brains that are better than me at any particular moment. And so I think when I walk into a room, when I'm talking to a client, now I'm more of the chief sort of problem solver for a multiple sort of set of clients. I can talk to them as a human, you know, and I think I can say that gender isn't really a problem when you're talking about fear. I think you just maybe want to talk to somebody that has the experience and the background to actually have a conversation with you. And that's my wealthiest client, or the pro bono we do with domestic violence and abuse victims. So it's that ability, I think, to empathize and to talk about the fact, obviously, lived experience as a woman it is different to living as a man. And so I think I'm always conscious to give my, if there is any sort of awkward pause or moment where I have been asked, you know, oh, where's your colleague? And you know, it's like, it's me. There's no colleague. There's no male colleague. Do it in a really collaborative way, because I think that's my way. That's my vibe. That's what I want to make people feel at ease. And I think now we've built enough of a reputation. A lot of our stuff comes from word of mouth anyway. So it's like, she's going to be a woman and she's giant, she's blonde, so don't be like freaked out when you meet her. And therefore that has already been a sort of a, you know, I'm not normally going into a room where people are like, okay, oh, right, we're seeing a woman. So I try and, I know I talk about the gender bit a lot, but I actually do try and take it out, because it's sometimes actually, you know, my difference is actually the sort of the key aspect of difference in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've talked before about how it's quite important to, if you're looking for someone for that security piece, not being able to find anyone as a woman that looks like you, or you know, is sometimes a bit of a challenge. So it's good to see that the numbers going up.
2%.
2%. It's better than 0%.
Yeah.
So you've certainly kind of built a name for yourself as a woman in what I would see as a very male-dominated industry still. But as an entrepreneur in that space, what advice can you give to us about being more entrepreneurial in our roles here? Might be slightly different from what you're doing, but
and well, so firstly, I find the word entrepreneur. I'm going to grow up at some point, but I just find the leader, you know, all those sort of words. It's everything that's been accidental. I'm now growing into my skin a bit more. And okay, yes, we have sort of disrupted or challenged a very traditional sector, but in a really positive and upbeat way, like never in any sort of you know, negative way. So I think the idea that we even have survived as a business because of the difference is like, yes, brilliant. The fact that people will now say, you know, entrepreneur, and I get invited to a lot of sort of founder-led events, it's actually quite nice, because it's nice to be around other people of the population that have set something up. And the more I meet people that have founded businesses, the more I realize that entrepreneurship is also something that shouldn't be this elitist concept. Like, we're all entrepreneurs in this room. There's some problem you have in your life that you've got in the back of your mind, a bit like everyone's got a book inside of them. I firmly believe everyone's got a business inside of them. There's a thing that you perhaps are annoyed about in your daily life that you wish had been invented, or that was done in a different way, and you know, things like that. And this word intrapreneur as well. So for my team now, because I'm such a kind of have a go CEO, founder, CEO, and there's a real difference between professional CEOs, and my approach, as I'm finding out as we're scaling, is to encourage intrapreneurship. And so every member of my team being able to come to me and say, Kate, you know, I've got this different idea, I've seen this biometric software, or there's this new AI recognition for CCTV cameras that tells the difference between a fox, a client, and an elk. Random. I'll go with it. Should we look into it? Yes, absolutely. You know, I love that sense of intrapreneurship, because I don't want my team to go anywhere. It's taken me 10 years to find people that are my sort of, you know, the Umbra way. You know, we've got a real sense of how we do things, upbeat, glass half full. Not there's no no's in a kind of, you know, we'll do whatever a client wants, but like a really like extra mile. How can we leave them with that nice feeling? We have welcome packs, we've got branded kit like you've got on your seat, webcam covers, little charging packs that you know, we produce. So this idea, and all of those have been things that have come from the team, including the long-awaited umbrella, which is just a thing of great. So which is all about to hit the shelves of nowhere. But it's going to be our latest sort of idea. And again, that's someone in the team that's sort of seen it through from, a sort of conceptual idea to reality. So again, I can't remember the question, but the umbrella is.
I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, entrepreneurship. Everyone in this room is an entrepreneur. Can be an entrepreneur. Everyone in this room has ideas. It's not about who chooses to execute them. It's not about that at all. It's more about right place, right time, right resources, right support network. I would not be sat here without a multitude of people that, and again, now with the advent of LinkedIn and social media, who have connected to us. I think we met through sort of Instagram, or things that you wouldn't say. It's like 10% of our business as a security business last year came through LinkedIn. Like I said, nobody ever in relation to their sort of business development pipeline. So, and that was only because, again, and one of the team said, look, let's really go long on being visible. We don't, obviously talk about what we do for clients in the public domain, but there's a lot of things you can talk about, particularly in our sector, where people are like, security, even the words sound scary, and they're put off by the fact that security is this sort of like last minute thing. Actually, with my entrepreneur hat on, I'm constantly challenging the team to say, come back with ideas every day about how we can make our sector more accessible. I am all ears to also all of the sector that now know that I'm not going anywhere fast. It's like, let's collaborate, and that word where in an industry where it's all kept very much kind of secret, and sometimes for good reason. But there's no need to have acronyms and jargon that people don't understand in any sector, in any walk of life. I'm a really simple person. If I don't understand it, my clients don't understand it. And the same goes for security. And actually, security made simple is actually safer than someone going, sorry, what was that? Kilo Bravo ASAP. I do joke with some of my old buddies about, I am Kilo Bravo. That was my radio call sign when I was learning with my radio. But if I'm writing that on a WhatsApp to a client, if someone's nicked their handbag, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's making it relevant, making it something that people want to actually think of as a sector that you can come into and set up a business. Like there's so much opportunity right now, particularly in cyber, for people to come in and set up 1, 2, 3 man bands. And I really like that about it, because there's everything to play for, because as technology advances, bring it on, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And that links quite nicely to a couple of things you've got in your Instagram bio. So you've got 2 things. You've got being mission and purpose driven, and you've also got ikigai, which isn't something I hope I'm saying it right. It's not something I'd heard of before. What do those things mean to you, and why have you got them sort of front and center on your profile?
Does anyone know what ikigai means? No hands again.
Is it right?
Yes, 2 hands. Amazing. So it's the moment that I was told about this word, ikigai, it's a Japanese word. And at the moment I saw the Venn diagram triangles of mission, passion, vocation, and profession, and you have to see it sort of visually laid out. And there's this little bit in the middle that you sort of conceptually, in life, we're paid to do something, we're passionate about things, we've been put on this earth to do things, and then what's the other one, mission, the world really needs it, that activist in us. And we're all kind of, floating around those different kind of concentric or circles every day. But that ikigai bit in the middle, I think there's a sort of a flow state equivalent, where that you're in that moment where you're loving what you're doing so much it doesn't feel like work. And the moment I found that phrase, I think that the sort of subtext, if I sort of go back, as I was building the business, it was really clear to me that the world is not a safe place. And it's really clear to me that I'm very lucky, having sat on the board of the UK's security regulator, to understand a bit about public safety, and this idea that we can't and we shouldn't be relying on a policing system to keep us safe anymore. We just simply can't. There's not enough humans for the humans that there are in the UK, and that's just a fact. So suddenly I was at this intersection of private security, public safety, thinking, actually, some of the things that we deliver to our clients, if we could create them in a really readily accessible format, we could make the world a safer place. And I think it was at the time where I was listening to Jake Humphrey on the High Performance podcast, and there was this idea of infinite purpose. And then I think something bang after that episode came on and talked about ikigai, and I was like, lightning bolt. I was like, this is it. This is why I set up this business. Every day that I work, to help to keep my clients safe, to understand how the industry is evolving, to really try and champion for diversity and inclusion, because it's really, really good for security to have different minds come to the table. Then I can translate that back into some of the things that I'm really passionate about in terms of public safety, the violence against women and girls issue and vulnerable groups, which is just a completely wide open area, and there's lack of funds, there's lack of resources, all this sort of stuff. I'm like, hang on a minute, how can we take what we're doing and actually start to sort of create those ways that we can bring that together? And there is a sense for me anyway of at the accidental failures and all the rest of it, actually I'm where I kind of feel like I should be, and that's why I'm really passionate about using my voice to speak to 20, 30 people. The more people that I can talk to about things that they can do and you can do today to be safe, keep safe, but more importantly, keep your community safe, keep your work colleagues safe, keep your street, your community. That's the ripple effect, where a lot of what we do in pure security management terms is stuff that you could walk away from here and do: situational awareness, bystander training, all those sorts of things. So it's been an evolution, and there's been a lot of work. And again, founder, CEO, have a go CEO, entrepreneur, all these tags and titles. I'm growing a team and a business that is having an impact. And for me, it's more important that this business leaves a legacy, so something tangible. How many eyeballs can we get on our toolkits so that we know that we've given really great advice to the masses? How can we reinvest money that we make into public sector safety programs, ask for Angela beer mats that you see in nightclubs so that people can actually have access to resources as and when they need it? One of my big passions is sport. I love sport. Getting ex-sportsmen and women to get the training to come into the security sector. That was not an idea, actually. That, again, another man ambassador over the years. He's an ex-rugby player turned fire guard, close protection bodyguard. I mean, that's even more of a better title than me. But he was one of the first people to sort of say to me, I'm actually from a rugby background, and some of the skills I've learned being in a pack mentality, in a team mentality, have translated really well into security. And I was like, I really like sport. I want to make a more diverse sector. How can I combine all of this? So we sponsor London Irish Women Rugby now as a sort of really long output from that sort of impact bit, because I was thinking, how can we actually create a pathway for funding? And there's lots of serendipitous things that happen when you set up a business and you're so visible setting it up as well. People connect to you. I owe a lot to LinkedIn, to Instagram, to things like that. And it was during the pandemic when I got two connections. One was to the Switch the Play Foundation and a social impact charity called Coach Core. And those two now form part of our Umbra Academy of sports to security sort of pathways, but also we help reinvest back into individuals that come from backgrounds where they might end up going to prison. We help to provide funding for them to become sports coaches. So there's all these different things. They all sound really disparate, and actually, as I'm saying it all sounds quite scattergun. But actually, Umbra Academy now means something. We're having a tangible impact on society. And don't tell my team, but those things excite me more, just as much as the day job. And how great is that you can have a day job where you don't have to set your own business up, but you can do stuff in your day job that has this impact that is far greater than you, and that outlives you potentially in some of the things, some of the young people and the sports people and the stats that we're getting now on our toolkits. That's the sort of thing that I think led me to realize that I really want to leave an impact. I want to be able to connect the dots for people. I want to create community, because community equals safety for me. I like being part of communities. I feel safe in them. So it makes sense that those three values that really crystallize for me, protection, community, and connection, have become the sort of things that I really try and kind of live by. And if I have difficult decisions to make, which I do millions on a daily basis, it's a really good framework for me to live by. It's a really good way, knowing myself and how I respond to things, actually having a bit of a way that I can make those micro decisions that I have to make. So yeah, Ikigai and impact are two things that literally changed my life.
Amazing. And it's not often that I think founders and people that started businesses are so accessible to the community. So I think it's Be amazing that we were able to connect over socials, and I think great things happen when you try and build that.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to do that, and I liked, thank you, I really appreciate that, because there's no point in building a business and a platform and having a voice if you don't use it. And it's, it's deeply terrifying to sort of, start to sort of speak and propagate your message, because there's a vulnerability to sharing that, but actually you get that sort of muscle memory of confidence that we were talking about, the more that this business journey goes on. And I will live and die by that sword, that 21-year-old kid that I was with the rucksack and the A to Z that didn't even have the page of Soho Square. If I can connect the dot for that person now, that's so easy to do, and actually has such a great ripple effect of that person getting themselves on the career ladder. So a lot about the younger generation coming through. We've got our own shadow committee, shadow board as well, which brings some fresh perspective, because as you can imagine, working with the sort of clients that we work with, we have to stay quite measured and proportionate. And I like challenge on assumption, and it's a really great way of having a board that sits under our advisory board, so that we can encourage more young people getting into the boardroom for another time. But huge area of my focus, having busted into the security sector's boardroom, and I'm not going anywhere fast. The boardroom needs to just be massively opened out to the governance is something that will save the world and protect us all. So we all need to make real strides to get diversity in the boardroom, make our voices heard at a really high level.
Amazing. So moving on slightly, you've talked quite a lot about the link between safety and well-being. How do those two things connect?
So I think now we've got enough data through the work we've done within the business to look at the trends and risk resilience and things that go wrong, and emotional well-being. So physically, mentally and cognitively healthy people, humans, clients, tend to make more proportionate decisions. We talked about paranoia, peace of mind. Imagine you're tired, you're stressed, your perception of walking down that street may be slightly altered to when you're not tired, not stressed. So for me, it's been a very interesting journey to actually kind of bring those ideas of wellness, emotional security to the security sector. And again, some of the things that I've been I don't use the word maverick anymore, because it's pioneering this idea that safe, healthy clients equal better outcomes, lower risk incidents. And particularly that's the 18 to 25-year-old market, because our clients, who, particularly those that have created their own businesses from scratch, they're often the second sort of generation that comes through, generation 2 and generation 3, get further and further away from the wealth creation. And so it's interesting working with those different generations of wealth, and their perception of risk is really quite interesting, because you're sometimes born into these situations that through no design. And actually, if you don't have a perception of your own risk, if you've had a team of 8 bodyguards looking after you since you were 0, and then you go to Freshers Week at Exeter with no bodyguards, it can sometimes go a bit wrong. So this idea of looking at where emotional security, feeling safe, intersects with the security practice, and it's an emerging area that I'm now showing a causal link between physically, mentally, and cognitively. And I put those 3 separately because I try everything that we recommend to our clients. We've in our toolkits now got the sort of Kate Bright's guide to basically what I eat and do, from when I wake up in the morning, from my mushroom coffees and my functional supplements and my hyperbaric oxygen stuff, and all the things that, the me 5 years ago would have been like, yeah, right, Kate, you're a nut bar. But actually, these are things that if I can get 1% more out of every day, and being around elite minds every day, then my challenge to be the best, most physically, mentally, and cognitively healthy person means I'm able to see not only my own risk in a much proportionate way, but that of my clients. So it's an area where we're trying to sort of really push the boundaries of when we onboard a client. Why would a security management or chartered security professional be asking when you had your last physical health screening, or do you have a high performance cognitive specialist that you work with? But remember the idea of accessibility. Actually, there are things that you can do that cost a lot of money, and there are things that you can do that cost no money. And some people who may know of the biohacking kind of principles, early morning sunlight, hydration, grounding, they're all things that if I've lost half the room, but I find you in 3 years' time, message me, and I can be like, yes, I've seen the light. I've spent a lot of money on things that are just like a sunlight ball, that I should have just gone outside and got that sunlight. And a lot of the things that I've connected with my clients on are those very health aspects that commercially, a healthy living client still pays your invoices, so that it's commercially really good if they're healthy. And sending them things like Aura rings. One client in particular, he sent it back in the post because he said, I'm not going down your dark arts of tracking my health, no way. But we have a great relationship on the basis that he thought that a 50th birthday present from his security specialist was very strange, that it was an Aura ring, and he's now actually bought one himself. So anyway, long-winded way of saying I believe that, I know the data's there, and we're busy sort of working out how we can best not freak out our sector to actually talk about that more widely, but I'm sort of seeding it now, slowly, and again, I find a toolkit a really great way of getting a message out there in a really subliminal kind of way. It's like a suggestion of things that may or may not help. I mean, this nudge theory has really helped us to kind of underscore that as something that I've seen with my own eyes, the benefit of particularly the pro bono work that we do. We meet people in really difficult situations, and if we can get them feeling more like themselves, then that proportionality follows. So yeah.
What are the best kind of lower cost things that we could maybe be doing?
Your webcam cover that's on your seat.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, things that I was talking on the way in, things that we can do. The 4 pillars that we sort of talk about: physical, digital, reputational, and emotional. There are things that you can do that are super, super easy. And some of the things around physical security is just about honing situational awareness. And also, excuse me, things like bystander training. If every human had a look at, I think L'Oreal have got a really good one. I think we've got that linked on one of our toolkits, funnily enough. If every human looked out for other humans, or knew how to look out for other humans, because also it's not about stepping in when it's hairy scary. It's about when to, how to de-escalate something. Yeah, I believe that would be a massive, huge sea change for everybody feeling safe. And that starts in the workplace, by the way. It's somebody who you've interacted with recently that perhaps isn't as seen, saying, great job for this, or messaging them after this and saying, hey, that was a great thing you collaborated with me on. It's not bodyguarding security, but it's emotional security. It's the ability to actually help to create that sense of community, and that ripple effect is really important. The tangible stuff around situational awareness is only as good as your physical, mental, cognitive health. You see the causal link between being on the quest for high performance and actually then that benefit to your daily life. And then some of the things that, the kind of toolkit stuff, I always have a privacy screen on my phone. I like the idea that people on the tube can read my emails to my mum about what roast I want at the weekend, but actually it's quite private. I'm not having conversations that when I'm rocking around that I want other people to see. And so this idea of cheap, easy ways that you can use a webcam cover, there is some evidence to suggest that webcams are hackable. If they're not, let's not think about it. Let's just whack a webcam cover over it. So it's about putting those little things in place that are low and no cost, that can have that sort of onward effect. And one thing that I also say about your online narrative, there was 2 things I say. One is a Google keyword alert is a free and cheap way of doing what a lot of our clients do, which is monitoring anything that comes up about you, your name. And that can often be in cahoots with Experian, have this amazing thing called Credit Lock. Those 2 things are, and Credit Lock, actually, you do have to, I think there's a little subscription fee, but the freemium version, you get an alert every time something changes, and that something changes could be somebody trying to apply for a credit card in your name. Now, that's a really good way of being reputationally secure. I like freemium, cheap ways of being safe. For me, for my family, for my clients, not reinventing the wheel, I think is really important. And a lot of that is on our toolkits, because we want to be that business that says you don't have to pay any or a lot of money to do the things that people who do spend a lot of money do to feel safe.
That's the Umber Academy?
So that sits on, so Umber Academy, the Secure Lifestyle Toolkit, and my own personal favourite is the Bodyguard in a Bag, because it sort of talks through and walks through it. Everything's being, we've got a new website coming, so be kind, but it's our first sort of, presentation of the things that you can click through, and I think we even get like 3p if you buy like a 10 quid thing. So awesome, thank you. And that goes reinvested back in, obviously, to our good causes, but yeah, there's some completely free stuff that you can do as well. And that's the sort of thing that, if you think about that, just on finishing on that reputational bit, being the human you would be now online, so many of the things that happen to our clients are where there's a risk change because they've had an opinion that's really controversial. And this is not me there's a free speech and a tempering of it. I'm talking about the sort of vitriol and the sort of negativity and the hate, and the things that you wouldn't go up to somebody on the street and throw a brick at them. And so why would that be acceptable online? So I have an emerging kind of narrative that I have with myself around, any content you'll see from Umber is glass 3/4 full, supportive, championing others, connecting the dots through to my values, connecting, community, protection, on a loop, on a cycle, not pulling people down, not trying to find the holes and things. And I've had it happen to me as well. I mean, the TED Talk going live was a massive exposure moment for me. I had a little taste of what it's like when people are like, messaging a thing, and my other half, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to reply back. And he was like, no, do not do that. And I know about to not do that. So, even in that moment, I was like so enraged that someone would be like, who does she think she is, talking about invisible security? And like, I've had experience, mate. What have you had? Come and find me, kind of thing. Clearly, not the right way. So things that we would do as humans to fellow humans, and things that we would want ourselves, bystander training. Just a really proactive look at your own life. Don't wait till things go wrong, because it's stressful and expensive and sometimes unnecessary.
And so on bystander training, what can we do to be better bystanders and kind of look out for each other better? And also, do you think that looks different for men and women, or kind of the same advice you'd give across the board?
Yeah, I think this idea of allyship, I've spoken about the bystander training. I think it's genderless. I think everybody should do it. Everyone, a bit like first aid training, be an awesome human, know how to save someone's life. It's I think the St John's Ambulance people do a lot of, if not free, then really cheap ways that you can learn how to be a great first aider. So bystanding, and as I said before, knowing when to not step in is also really important, because I'm not sitting here saying to everybody, go out and be, sort of on the street police at all. But I think we all have been in situations, whether it's online or in real life, where we wish we'd spoken up or said something, or I think we're in an era now where sharing things and content, and we're maybe all of us have been in a group where things are just escalate, and actually being able to sort of say to somebody, I really don't appreciate that you have shared that, because I think a lot of life now, being a great bystander, is about not hauling out somebody, but having a sidebar conversation where you actually explain how that's made you feel, and getting that person's input as to, that was misguided, and giving that person the opportunity to actually understand that that's not a behavior that's made you feel safe. And I think that's something that, again, we can all do that. Everybody can learn how to be a bystander, and it's definitely something I talk about it a lot. Have I answered that question? Sorry, my brain is.
It's okay. It's really, I think it would be good to leave some time for questions for.
Sorry, I've been talking loads.
From the audience. I've got a couple more, but I'm going to give an opportunity for anyone who might have a question. We've got a mic.
Be kind.
Who'd grab it? Does anyone want to kick us off? Jump. I can grab it for you. Okay. I'm sorry. There you go.
Do you work in emerging markets?
Oh, sorry. Can you just flick the button on it?
Emerging markets.
Yes.
Yeah, we have clients from everywhere. Yeah, I call them globally nomadic. I mean, there's clients that live and work and have kids and family in different places and travel the world for business and all the rest of it. Yeah, we're a UK-based business at the moment. We have a Swiss counterpart that we work with, and I travel a lot because I like to see clients in their natural habitat and different places that they live. The UK at the moment is actually quite a good place to run an international business from a time zone point of view. I won't get too political, but yeah, short answer is yes.
I will forward your contact.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much. I just wanted to ask about the kind of people you protect and under what circumstances.
So anyone and everyone really that feels like they need it. Do you mean on the raw physical protective?
Yes, like what what kind of people are your clients? What requires protection? Is it political? Is it
good question.
Financial? Is it for what reasons?
So typically the people that would be looking for sort of entry-level protection, so like a security driver as a sort of starting point, have maybe sold a business or come into wealth very quickly and feel that actually it's actually more cost effective than, say, using an Uber service or public transport to actually be able to use that dead time more efficiently, and also have one person that's helping them to plan and manage their logistics. All the way through to your celebrity client who might need a different kind of protection during a visible event, such as a red carpet, versus we work with some clients that are really visible when they want to be and for their job, which is as a sports media entertainment superstar, but actually want a really private life. So it's maybe a different type of blended approach, male, female, cultural shifts, nuances. But in the main, this is where the emotional security bit comes in, because people will tend to introduce us on the basis that this client would like security. But the first question we would ask is, why? Has anything happened? Sometimes there'll be what we call a risk event, or something that's changed, a disruptive event, something that's gone wrong. Other times there's a bit of a nicer lead-in. So as I say, a sale of a business or somebody taking over a family business that's going to have some kind of exposure. So imagine you're part of a family name and the expectation is on you that you're going to take over that business. You've gone from being relatively in the shadows yourself to suddenly having a profile. And so a lot of captains of industry, a lot of people who, a lot of board directors of big listed companies will have their own protective teams. Lots of tech companies have specifically on their sort of founders or visible people of interest. And I think that's the interesting part about your question is that when we meet a client, whether we know their name or know of them or their work, the first thing we'll do is, so this is you as a human in the street and in life, this is you online. Actually, we can sometimes look at where those holes might be, and there may be more online risk and reputational risk because of that blog post or that thing that they said inadvertently, whether they'd had a drink or whatever in 1997. Actually, sometimes those the things that can, when you're going through a really swift moment of exposure, come back and totally out of context sometimes, really change your feeling of safety and therefore how you choose to hire or have people around you.
Thanks.
I don't know if I answered that all right. I can talk about it for
I suppose,
like
Adriana, I was also thinking, I'm South African, so
yeah.
I know why people have security in South Africa, but I never really think of Britain as being a place that is unsafe to the degree that you need.
Yeah, we work internationally, but you're absolutely right. And the actual role of security in what we call non-hostile environment. So UK is fairly non-hostile. We have actually got a lot of South African clients. Some of the conversations are brilliant because they come and they're like, what's the knife crime like in, Burford? And you're like, I think you're gonna be all right. But, actually, no, you can't carry weapons, all the same sort of questions. When you then look at things like political close protection, close protection for politicians, that's actually done by the police. So I think there's a misconception that shows like, was that BBC one, it's actually called, I think, Bodyguard or something. This idea that you are, as somebody who's in the public eye, or a politician, that you're automatically going to give them protection, has been something where a lot of female MPs have come unstuck because they don't qualify for that. So we've had some quite interesting sort of existential kind of conversations with people that probably should really have protection. But as I talk about the public protection piece, it's just not enough people to protect the people that need to be protected. So there's a lot of philosophical arguments around it. People's perception of safety. For some people, coming to London is like terrifying. We have families that come to the UK on a semi-regular basis, and they will go off to Bath, or they'll go off to wherever in the UK. When they're in London, they want to have a team with them. So it's people's perception. I guess some people are reading about knife attack in 11 a.m. I think it was a few years ago. One of our guys had a knife pulled on him. He was with a family that were pushing a buggy. This opportunistic aspect. For some of our clients reading that, they're like, well, why would I not have protection if that sort of thing is, if a moped is going to drive past whoever I am and grab something, why wouldn't I then put something in place to protect me? So our conversations are quite kind of searching, in as much as we were always looking at, why do you think you need it? What's the risk? What's the threat? Have you got young children? Is there a better way that we can do this? And is there a better way that, remember my training, plan A, B, C, is there a better way we can manage your logistics so that your perception of an unsafe place is actually then with local knowledge, and not going to Brixton at 4 a.m. unless you really want a really wild experience, here for it, but like probably for a certain client, why would you do that?
I do live in Brixton.
But I've been clapping. So, but it's that proportionality, and it's that, again, relationship with the clients that you can then say, no, you can't carry weapons as the private sector here in the UK. And the hostile environments. So when our clients go overseas to hostile environments, there's a whole different kind of planning that takes place from the Badlands of Belgravia and Harrods and all the rest of it.
Any other questions? None.
So you mentioned about the perception of fear, and then had to quite further from Brazil. We have lots of evidence going on. People have been kidnapped, etc. They actually work with the parallel when because that's quite important, I think. Yeah, and at the moment, again, through the great work of the team, we've gone from the Umbra SOS concept all the way through to our Umbra Plus membership concept, which is sometimes we'll meet you in that moment where things have gone wrong. And certainly for some of our long-standing retained clients, we've got this inbuilt ability for various sort of 24/7 follow the sun type services, where you literally press a red button and there's your last known GPS location, all that sort of stuff, where working in more hostile environments where kidnap for ransom is more prevalent. I think there's every 5 minutes somebody is kidnapped in, that stat is probably not right, but South America, let's say. For a client that's going there on a mini break, it's a different thing to somebody who knows and has that sort of local knowledge. Handing to a local team, really important as well, and having that ability to know on the ground what's happening. Even in London, you can have a mass protester event cutting across your beautifully laid out plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Suddenly something changes. So being able to be plugged into that information, Project Griffin, which is the counterterrorism info hub for the UK, making sure that our teams have access to all that kind of information, because it's only a problem when it's a problem. And also the ability to have relationships with clients to say, we cannot mitigate every single risk. I'm a risk hunter. I love looking at emerging risks, but my goodness, in this world we're living in now, you can either get so consumed on the paranoia end of the spectrum that you're mitigating for and I've got you in a box under my desk and I'm watching you and you can't live your life and have fun, or there's a sort of a reckless nature, and somewhere in between there is the peace of mind that whatever your secure lifestyle looks like and whatever you want to try and achieve from it, we'll try and mitigate as much as we can on the basis that we can have a really good relationship with our clients to say, things change, and we're here to support that holistic evolution of risk, and particularly with things like AI and the advent of risks that didn't exist a few years ago, we've got to be very agile so that we're not just focused on the human component, although I do say that humans will have to become more exceptional as this evolution happens. So reinvesting in the self, physical, mental, cognitive health, the same mantra applies wherever we are in the world.
Amazing. So if there's no more questions, thank you so much, Kate. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and yeah, I think it was very interesting hearing about what you do. So thank you.
Thank you.